There was a man who hadn't slept properly for many years. He tried everything: sleeping pills, herbal teas, white noise, strict bedtime routines, meditation apps, expensive mattresses. He spent thousands of dollars and countless exhausted nights trying to force sleep to come. And the harder he tried, the more awake he became. He would lie in bed thinking, "I have to sleep. Why am I still awake? Tomorrow will be ruined." His body would tense. His heart would beat faster. His mind would race. Sleep had become a battle. Then, during a work trip to Japan, he met an elderly monk who listened quietly to his story. The monk smiled gently and said something unexpected. "Perhaps you're not awake because you cannot sleep. Perhaps you are awake because you are fighting." Instead of teaching him a new breathing trick or sleep ritual, the monk taught him something much simpler. When you cannot sleep, do not try to force it. Do not resist wakefulness. Do not struggle with the night. Allow it. Observe the wakefulness the way you would observe a passing cloud. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice the thoughts. But do not fight them. Do not judge them. Let them float there. Within weeks, and something surprising began to happen. The tension around sleep started to dissolve. The fear of being awake softened, and slowly, naturally, sleep began to return. Not through effort, not through control, but through acceptance. Years earlier, on the other side of the world, Dr. Claire Weeks taught something remarkably similar. She called it accept and float. When anxiety rises, she said, do not fight it. Accept the sensations. Float through them. Let time pass. Only a different culture, different words, same truth. What if everything we've been told about insomnia is backwards? What if the reason sleep feels impossible is because we're trying so hard to make it happen? Across cultures, people have discovered the same principle. When you stop fighting the night, the nervous system stops fighting back. The Japanese monks described it as observing without resistance. Dr. Weeks described it as floating. Modern neuroscience calls it allowing the nervous system to settle. But it is one universal understanding. The more you fight wakefulness, the stronger it becomes. The more you allow it, the less power it has. And perhaps sleep is not something you conquer. Perhaps it is something you stop resisting. We see the same pattern in the way we try to fix sleep. We go to bed with rigid rules. No phone. Lights out at exactly 10 o'clock. I must get 8 hours. We track our sleep scores. We monitor every movement. We measure, analyze, optimize. And when sleep doesn't come, we tighten control even more. Tomorrow, we promise, we'll do it perfectly. But add the more pressure we place on sleep, the more distant it feels. This is the problem with force. In many Western approaches, wakefulness is treated like an enemy, something to defeat, something to eliminate. We tell ourselves, I cannot be awake right now. This is bad. This must stop. But the Japanese perspective begins somewhere very different. Instead of seeing sleeplessness as a failure, they see it as a pattern that once had a purpose. And this is where it connects Likushich beautifully with Dr. Claire Weeks' work. When your body stays awake at night, it is not betraying you. It is protecting you. At some point, perhaps during stress, illness, overwork, or emotional strain, your nervous system learned that nighttime was a time to stay alert. The race in heart, the scanning thoughts, the sudden wave of alertness at 2 a.m., these were not random. They were attempts to keep you safe, Just like the smoker once found comfort in a cigarette, just like the overeater once found comfort in food, the sleepless mind once found safety in vigilance. Understanding this changes everything. If your wakefulness is not an enemy but a protective response, then fighting it only signals to the nervous system that danger is present. And when you fight being awake, when your body hears something is wrong, this is why Dr. Weeks taught acceptance, not resignation, not giving up, but removing the second layer of fear. The Japanese call it observing without resistance. Dr. Weeks called it accepting and floating. Both point to the same universal discovery. When you stop attacking your wakefulness, your nervous system stops defending itself. And in that softening, sleep finds space to return. There was once a monk who did not struggle with anger. He struggled with sleeplessness. Each night as the monastery grew quiet, his mind would grow louder. Small thoughts would build into long stories. A sensation in his chest would turn into unease. Unease would turn into frustration. And soon he was wide awake in the darkness. He tried everything to control it. He adjusted his posture. He forced his breath to slow. He repeated calming phrases. He demanded silence from his own mind. But nothing worked. The harder he fought wakefulness, the more alert he became. Then an older monk said something that changed his life. "Stop trying to get rid of the night," he said gently. "Instead, become curious about it. Watch wakefulness the way you would watch a cloud passing through the sky. Notice when it arrives, but you notice how it feels in your body. Notice the thoughts that come with it. But do not judge it. Do not fight it. Simply observe." The younger monk doubted this would help, but he was tired of battling. So the next time he awoke at night, instead of tightening with frustration, he quietly noted, "Awake." He felt where it lived in his body, a buzzing in his chest, a slight tension in his stomach, a brightness behind his eyes. He noticed the thoughts. "I won't function tomorrow. This shouldn't be happening. Why can't I sleep like everyone else?" And instead of arguing with those thoughts, he allowed them to be there. This is what Dr. Claire Weeks would later describe as accepting and floating. Not pushing the sensations away, not bracing against them, but allowing them to move through. Without adding a second layer of fear, within weeks, something unexpected happened. The wakefulness began to lose its charge. By observing it without judgment, he created space between himself and the experience. He could be awake without being alarmed. He could feel the sensations without interpreting them as danger. And when the nervous system no longer sensed danger, it no longer needed to stay on guard. Eventually, the wakefulness visited less often, and when it did arrive, it passed through more quickly, like a summer storm that no longer frightened him. The Japanese called it observing without resistance. Dr. Weeks called it floating through anxiety. Different words, same discovery. When you stop fighting the wave, it stops crashing. This principle sits at the heart of the Japanese approach and at the heart of Dr. Claire Weeks' method as well. Nothing lasts forever. Not anxiety, not adrenaline, not even a sleepless night. When you truly understand this, something shifts. That surge of alertness at 2 a.m. will peak and then fall. That restless energy in your chest will rise and then soften. That loop of thoughts will eventually slow. But most people treat nighttime wakefulness like an emergency, When they wake up, they either fight it, I must sleep now, or distract from it, scrolling, checking the clock, trying new techniques. Both approaches send the same message to the nervous system. This is dangerous, this must stop. And the body responds by staying alert. The Japanese approach suggests a third way. Acknowledge the wakefulness is feel it fully, but do not act on it. This is exactly what Dr. Weeks meant by floating. Instead of tightening against the sensations, you let them rise and fall on their own timetable. If your heart beats faster, you let it beat. If your mind races, you let it race. If your body feels wired, you allow the energy to move through. You sit with the discomfort the way you would sit beside a friend who is upset. You do not try to silence them. You do not argue with them. You simply stay. And here's the quiet truth discovered across cultures. When you stop treating wakefulness like an emergency, it stops behaving like one. Most nighttime adrenaline spikes peak within minutes if they are not fueled by fear. The wave rises, crests, and then dissolves, just as all waves do. The Japanese called this impermanence. Dr. Weeks called it letting time pass. Modern neuroscience calls it allowing the stress response cycle to complete. Different languages, same law of nature. Wakefulness feels permanent in the moment, but it is not. And when you allow the wave to pass instead of fighting it, you discover something powerful. You are not trapped in the night. You are the awareness gently floating through it. A businessman in Tokyo once used this principle to end a 20-year smoking habit. But this same method is now quietly helping people all over the world with something else. Waking up in the middle of the night. Instead of trying to force himself back to sleep, he made one simple agreement with himself. If I am awake, I will allow it for 10 minutes. No checking the clock. No calculating how many hours are left. No trying to make sleep happen. Just 10 minutes of allowing. When he woke at 2:17 a.m., instead of thinking, this is bad, he would gently say to himself, all right, I'm awake, let's float. He would feel the sensations in his body, the alertness in his chest, the subtle energy in his limbs, the activity in his mind. He did not distract himself. He did not fight the sensations. He did not attempt to calm them down. He simply observed. He noticed something fascinating. The alertness would rise quickly, usually peaking within a few minutes. His heart might beat a little faster. His thoughts might speed up. But when he did not add fear, the wave began to fall on its own. Around 3 to 5 minutes, the intensity would start to soften. By the time 10 minutes had passed, the nervous system had often settled enough that sleep returned naturally. Not because he forced it, but because he stopped interfering with the body's natural rhythm. This was not willpower, this was understanding. Cravings for sleep, the desperate need to make it happen and feel urgent and permanent. But they are simply adrenaline waves. Dr. Claire Weeks described this beautifully. Allow the sensations, float through them, let time pass. Here, the Japanese observed the same pattern long before modern sleep science confirmed it. When you do not resist the wave, it completes itself. And here is the powerful realization. You are not the racing thoughts. You are not the surge of alertness. You are the awareness watching it rise, crest, and fall. When you stop trying to escape the night, you begin to move through it. And very often sleep finds you when you are no longer chasing it. Here is the sleep-adapted Kaizen section, continuing the universal acceptance and float theme while making it practical for insomnia recovery. The Japanese have a concept called Kaizen, continuous small improvement, not dramatic transformation, not overnight reinvention, just gentle, steady change. And this idea is deeply aligned with Dr. Claire Weeks' understanding of nervous exhaustion and recovery. Western culture often approaches sleep the way it approaches everything else. We want a complete reset. Starting tonight, I'll sleep perfectly. No more waking up. 8 flawless hours every night. But this all-or-nothing mindset quietly creates pressure. And pressure is the opposite of sleep. Kaizen offers a softer path. Instead of trying to fix your entire sleep pattern at once, you improve your relationship with the night by 1%. Not sleeping 8 hours immediately, not eliminating all awakenings. Just 1% less fear when you wake. 1% more willingness to float. 1% less clock checking. 1% more softness in your body. It seems almost too small to matter. But this is how the nervous system actually heals. The pathways of nighttime anxiety were not built in one night. They formed gradually through stress, overwork, illness, emotional strain. They strengthened through repetition, and they softened the same way, through repetition of safety. Each time you wake and say, "This is okay," instead of, "This is a disaster," you lay down a new pathway. Each time you float instead of fight, you teach your body that night is not dangerous. Dr. Weeks emphasized this often. Recovery is gradual. There may be setbacks. There may be good nights and difficult nights. But progress is measured in reduced fear, not perfect sleep. This is Kaizen. You are not demolishing insomnia. You are gently outgrowing it. A woman in Kyoto once applied this without even calling it Kaizen. She had been waking every night at 3 a.m. in panic. Instead of trying to eliminate the awakening entirely, she made one small shift. Her only goal was this: when I wake, I will not tense my body. That was it. Not forcing sleep, not solving her life, not achieving perfection, just relaxing her shoulders when she noticed they were tight. Within weeks, something subtle changed. The 3 a.m., where the awakening still came at first, but the panic began to shrink. And as the panic shrank, the awakenings became shorter, then less intense, then less frequent. Not through force, through tiny, consistent signals of safety. The Japanese call it Kaizen. Dr. Claire Weeks called it gradual desensitization through acceptance. Different language, same principle. The nervous system does not respond to pressure. It responds to repeated experiences of calm. And those calm moments, even if small, begin to accumulate, 1% at a time. Here is the sleep-adapted version, continuing the universal acceptance and float theme, while introducing a deeper emotional layer around night awakenings. There is another Japanese concept called ikigai, your reason for being, your deeper sense of meaning, the quiet thread that gives your life direction. At first, this may not seem connected to sleep, but it is. Many nighttime struggles are not just about sleep itself. They are about what the night represents. We lie awake not only because of adrenaline, but because the silence creates space. And in that space, unprocessed thoughts rise. Loneliness rises. Unfinished worries rise. Old emotions surface. For some people, nighttime alertness became a coping mechanism. Staying mentally active felt safer than feeling. scrolling, planning, analyzing, worrying. These filled an inner space. If we remove the struggle with sleep without addressing what the mind is trying to do, something still feels unfinished. And this is where replacement becomes powerful. The Japanese approach suggests that instead of simply eliminating a pattern, you gently replace it with something aligned with meaning and safety. Dr. Claire Weeks approached this differently in language, but similarly in spirit. She didn't tell people to suppress anxious thoughts. She encouraged acceptance first, but she also encouraged living, re-engaging with life, purpose, and daily movement, so the nervous system had new experiences to build around. In sleep terms, this means something subtle. If nighttime has become a space of worry, you gently introduce a new association. Not force, not effort, just a new tone. Some people create a soft nighttime ritual that signals safety. A specific phrase, a familiar piece of audio. A gentle body scan they only use when awake at night. Others reconnect with something meaningful during the day. Creative work, conversation, movement. So the nervous system no longer carries unresolved tension into the night. A programmer once struggled with severe insomnia during a stressful career period. Each night his mind raced with unfinished tasks and imagined failures. Through reflection, he realized he was not afraid of sleep. He was afraid of feeling unproductive. Wakefulness had become his unconscious attempt to stay in control. Instead of fighting insomnia directly, he made one quiet change. At the end of each workday, he wrote down 3 sentences. Today is complete. What is unfinished can wait. Night is for restoration, not performance. This small ritual began replacing the pattern of mental striving with permission to rest. Gradually, the night softened. Because this was not just behavioral change, it was meeting the deeper need: safety, completion, meaning. The Japanese call it aligning with ikigai. Dr. Weeks would describe it as removing the fear and allowing life to flow again. Different names, same discovery. Insomnia often weakens, not when you defeat it, but when you build something steadier in its place. Sleep returns more easily to a life that feels safe to rest from. The Japanese also understand something crucial about shame and self-criticism. In Western culture, we often try to motivate ourselves through harshness. If we wake at 3 a.m. again, we think, not this again. What's wrong with me? I'll be exhausted tomorrow. I should be better than this by now. We believe criticism will fix the problem, but it rarely does. Shame activates the same stress response that keeps us awake. Self-judgment sends another wave of adrenaline through a nervous system that is already sensitized. And then we wonder why sleep doesn't return. You cannot frighten your nervous system into resting. You cannot bully your body into calm. Just as you cannot hate yourself into becoming someone you trust. The Japanese approach recognizes that growth happens in an atmosphere of gentleness. Hours when a child is learning to walk and falls, we do not scold them. We encourage them. We smile. We say, "It's okay, try again." Yet when we wake during the night, we often speak to ourselves with far less kindness than we would offer a stranger. Self-compassion in the middle of the night sounds different. It sounds like, "This is uncomfortable, but I'm safe. My body is trying to protect me. It's okay to be awake right now. Rest is still happening." Dr. Claire Weeks emphasized this deeply. She would say that setbacks are not failures. They are part of the healing process. The nervous system does not calm in a straight line. It wavers. It has good nights and difficult ones. But progress is measured in how you respond, not whether you wake up. When there was a teacher who struggled with insomnia during a particularly demanding school year. On the nights she couldn't sleep, she would lie there replaying every mistake she thought she made that day. If she woke at 2 a.m., the inner criticism would begin. You should be stronger. Other people manage. You're failing. Eventually, exhausted by the tension, she tried something different. When she woke in the night, she placed one hand on her chest and quietly said, "This is a hard moment. Many people experience this. May I be kind to myself right now?" Nothing dramatic happened. She didn't instantly fall asleep, but the edge softened. Her body stopped bracing against itself. Over time, the nights became less frightening, not because she forced sleep, but because she removed the layer of attack. And self-compassion does not mean giving up. It means removing the inner fight. And when the fight fades, the nervous system has room to settle. Sleep is not invited through pressure. It returns through safety. Here is the continuation, keeping the same reflective, story-driven tone. Breaking a habit is not about breaking anything. It is about building something new. Imagine a tree that grows around a fence. Over time, the fence doesn't disappear. It simply becomes irrelevant. The tree keeps growing in its own direction. Habits work the same way. They're like well-worn paths through a forest. The old path is clear, smooth, easy to walk. You've taken it hundreds, maybe thousands of times. You cannot simply erase that path, but you can choose to begin walking a different one. At first, the new path feels awkward. The grass is tall, the ground is uneven, it requires attention. Meanwhile, the old path calls to you. It feels familiar, automatic. This is not weakness, it is wiring. Every habit is supported by neural pathways in the brain. The more you use a pathway, the stronger it becomes. And the less you use it, the more it fades. The brain does not respond well to destruction. It responds beautifully to repetition. This is why force fails. When you try to destroy a habit, you keep activating it. You think about it. You fight it. You rehearse it mentally, and the pathway remains alive. But when you quietly begin repeating a new behavior, even something small, you begin strengthening a different circuit. Over time, something subtle happens. The new path becomes easier. The old one begins to grow over. A smoker who replaces the ritual of stepping outside with 5 slow breaths begins wiring calm differently. Someone who scrolls late at night, but instead reads one page of a book, begins shifting the rhythm of their evenings. A person who responds to stress with food, but starts taking a short walk, begins associating movement with relief. None of this requires drama, just repetition. The Japanese philosophy understands that growth is organic. It is patient. It does not demand instant transformation. You are not demolishing a building. You are planting a garden, and gardens grow quietly. Change is not about intensity. It is about consistency, not willpower, but direction. Each small repetition is a step along the new path. And one day, without realizing exactly when it happened, you look back and notice you haven't walked the old road in a very long time. Perfect. Here is the final integration section, woven so that acceptance and float feels universal, timeless, and quietly rediscovered across cultures. If you step back and look at all of this, the observing monk, the 10-minute rule, Kaizen, Ikigai, self-compassion, building new paths, you begin to see something remarkable. These are not separate techniques. They're expressions of the same principle. Across Japan, across the West, across decades and disciplines, people are discovering and rediscovering one simple truth. What you resist persists. What you allow begins to change. The Japanese monk says, observe the anger. Dr. Claire Weeks says, accept the sensation. Modern neuroscience says, stop reinforcing the fear circuit. Different language, same wisdom. When a craving arises, you observe it. When anxiety rises, you float through it. When an old habit pulls at you, you allow the urge to crest and fall. You stop fighting your own nervous system. And when the fight ends, something unexpected happens. The body recalibrates. The brain rewires. The urge weakens. Not because you conquered it, but because you stopped feeding it. This is why people all over the world are using these methods under different names. In Japan, it is mindfulness, Kaizen, Ikigai. In anxiety recovery, it is acceptance and float. In behavioral science, it is exposure and neuroplasticity. In sleep science, it is paradoxical intention and non-resistance. Different doors, same room. The room is this. You are not broken. Your habits are not enemies. Your nervous system is not against you. It is trying to protect you the only way it knows how. When you meet it with curiosity instead of force, with compassion instead of shame, with patience instead of urgency, change becomes natural. Arc's gentle, sustainable, and here's the quiet discovery beneath it all. You are not your cravings. You are not your anxiety. You are not your habits. You are the awareness that can observe them. And awareness does not need to fight. It only needs to remain. This is not a Japanese technique. It is not a Western method. It is a human one. And once you understand it, you begin carrying it with you everywhere. In moments of craving, in moments of stress, in moments of sleeplessness. Allow, observe, float, repeat. Small steps, new paths, compassion. And over time, without force, the old patterns fade. Not because you destroyed them, but because you outgrew them.